you and the public. We would like to propose withdrawal of 3 items which relate to the ESCOM multi-year pricing determination. Item 5.1, 5.2, and 5.3. It has unfortunately been identified that gremlins have crept into the calculations, and we need to make sure that as the regulator, when we make a decision based on correct numbers. So we would like to request, as the ELS, the Electricity Subcommittee, and with apologies to yourselves, the ER members, and also to the public, that we would like to request that those items be withdrawn, that they would be brought back for a decision before the end of December. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Gumede, for that. Members, any opposition to that? Are we fine that we can withdraw item 5.1, 5.2, and 5.3? Show of hands, members. Okay, then item 5.1, 5.2, and 5.3 have been withdrawn. Any other items on the agenda that members would want to modify, delete, or withdraw? In that case, we have the agenda with items 5.1, 5.2, and 5.3 that have been, withdrawn from the agenda. Can we then go to item number 4, the declaration of interest on regulatory matters? We have the forms that are distributed. If we can just make sure that we've all signed and indicated in areas where we have any conflicts of interest. Thank you. We then are going to come to the electricity subcommittee matters, and we'll then go to 5. I mean, I'm not going to renumber, but we know that we are starting with item 5.4, and this item is for noting. I'm not sure if Mr. Gumede, you would want to take us through.
Chairperson, only just to indicate that this item is actually a round-robin decision that was effected. 5 members of the regulator voted. But it deals with application for electricity trading license by Energy Exchange of South Africa, and there was a decision, and the decision was in the positive. There was a query raised by Mr. Mkhize whether are we supposed to note the bilateral tariff or to approve it. And the only thing that I wanted to maybe just to indicate there that because this would be a licensee, we only note tariffs for registrants, but in respect of licensees, we either determine or we approve the tariff as indicated by Section 15.2 of the Electricity Regulation Act. Chairperson, other than that, there's nothing else to add. I'd like to thank the members that actually voted. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gumede, for that. And I think for the record, we note that this is approval of a electricity trading license for Energy Exchange Southern Africa Pty Limited. Mr. Gumede, we can then move to item. Any comments, members, on item 5.4? I see no hands, so we're going to move to item 5.5. Mr. Gumede?
Thank you, Chairperson. On item 5.5 is also a round-robin confirmation of application for generation licenses by 3 bid window 5 preferred bidders. Again, this item was approved on a round-robin by 6 members of the energy regulator. There were no comments raised on this one, and therefore, Chairperson is just here for noting that these 3 bid window 5 preferred bidders, the application for their generation licenses have been approved by the energy regulator. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Gumede. Any comments, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen? Are we happy to note? Show of hands. See Mr. Mkhize, Ms. Maseti, Ms. Basbanda, Mr. Gumede, Mr. Bia. Thank you. Then the last item, so we have noted this is the regulator. The last item on the electricity matters is 5.6, the minutes. I don't know if you have a point that you would want to highlight, in the minutes, Mr. Gumede, or if there are members who have identified issues that they would want to discuss in the minutes, they can do so after Mr. Gumede is going to.
Thank you, Chairperson. The minutes refer to a meeting of the ELS that was held on the 6th of September, 2022. I have nothing in particular there, Chair, that I'd like to flag. However, we can respond to any matter that may be raised. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Gumede. Members, any issues or matters that you would want clarity on the minutes of the ELS of 6th of September, 2022? I see no hands, so I take that we would be noting those minutes. Thank you. That concludes the matters under the electricity subcommittee. We then move on to the pipe gas subcommittee matters. We will start with item 6.1, which are the minutes of the previous meeting. Ms. Masetti, anything that you would like to highlight?
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, for the record, those are the minutes of the meeting held on 8 September 2022. I don't have any issues to highlight for this on these minutes, Chairperson, but I can take any questions of clarity. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Masetti. Members, any issues, questions that you would want clarified on the minutes? I see no hands. May I then request that we note this by show of hands, the colleagues? We have Mr. Mkhize, Ms. Masetti, Advocate Sithole, Ms. Simane, Ms. Mpungose, and Mr. Gumede. So we note the minutes and Mr. Sibanda. Thank you. That then leads us to item number 7, colleagues, which is the meeting of the petroleum report of the Petroleum Pipeline Subcommittee. We have the report from the chairperson, and we can start with item 7.1. Mr. Mkhize, the approval of the application to the High Court for the order to revoke the FFS license. Mr. Mkhize, please take us through.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. This submission deals with the request to the Energy Regulator to consider and approve the processing of revocations by way of a notice of motion application to the High Court by NERSA in terms of Section 26(1) of the Petroleum Pipelines Act 2003. The normally revocations of this nature will be approved by RC, but however, this application in particular, there was a recommendation that it be processed via the High Court, as the PPS is in terms of is more suited to delegate the matter to the to ER for approval to process it in this fashion, because of the nature of the challenge that we faced in terms of processing this application, as we do not have the legal mandate to do it as such. This was part of the facilities that belong to FFS, which is the Fuel Firing Systems to our LTD. It's a storage facility in Brackenfell, Western Cape Province, as well as one in Peterson Road, which is Eastern Cape Province. In essence, these facilities were licensed and in terms of operation, because they were already in existence when the Petroleum Pipelines Act came into operation. But we have since found out that they are not necessarily storage facilities as such in terms of the definition, but they are more of handling intermediate products in the processing of the loop oils, the oil, as demonstrated in Figure 1, which seeks just to have a high-level description of the operational activities of FFS. There was a similar facility which also belongs to FFS, which was revoked in 2016 via also the High Court at the recommendation made by PPS to the Energy Regulator. The matter was deliberated at PPS, and that deliberation is contained on page 9 of 22. which is table 1, and the responses thereto are clearly indicated there. Without any further description of the submission itself, I'd just like to put forth that the PPS recommends that the energy regulator approves the processing of this revocation by way of a notice of motion application to the High Court by NERSA in terms of Section 26(1) of the Petroleum Pipelines Act number 60 of 2003 for these licenses at Peterson as well as Brackenfell in the Western Cape. Thank you. Chairperson, I'm done.
Mr. Mkhize, apologies. I'm still learning this thing of having to unmute. I start talking to a mic that's muted. Colleagues, Mr. Mkhize has taken us through this. Are there any questions? And I think the recommendations, as indicated, are on the. I'm getting to the page, Mr. Mkhize. The recommendation is on 15.1. Ms. Sabia?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you to Mr. Mkhize for the presentation. Chair, just a process going forward. I just wanted to ask with regards to this process that we had to undergo, is there no way that the license can just be handed over? And normally this is provided in the Act. I do understand from a legal perspective, as the decision maker, we cannot just revoke in terms of, I think, functus officio. Sorry if I said it incorrectly. But shouldn't we have a provision in the Act where we actually have this handing back the licenses that we have issued in case you are not meeting the regulations as time goes by? Because I know in another entity, which is a regulator, where it is expressly provided in the Act that that process should be undertaken rather than going through all of these processes and even going to High Court. Can management look into that?
Thank you, Ms. Sabia. Any other questions, members? In that case, Mr. Mkhize, are you able to respond?
Thank you very much. I just want to also draw the members' attention to 6.4, 6.5, 6.6, up to 6.8 actually, where the issue of the nature and effect of the error is being looked into, to the extent that the functions of official implication then that principle kicks in terms of us not being able to review our own decision. However, noting what you have just said, ma'am, because there is a process of also the amendment of the Petroleum Pipelines Act, I would, without really delaying, I would consider that specifically the team to respond to this matter, to exploit going forward, but still noting that we cannot contravene the principle of functions officio. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. Ms. Sabia, are you covered?
Yes, Chair. If they can just look into it so that they will not be contravening it, because the person with the license will be handing it over. It will not be us as NERSA withdrawing it, but they will be handing over. So legally, those are two different things, and the legal team can advise them. Thank you, Chair. If they can look into it in the future amendments, thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Sabia. Ms. Matseti?
Sorry, Chairperson. I think I wanted to just come in there because my understanding of this act is that it does not have provisions to surrender, but it has provisions to revoke the license, and it's done in two ways. It's either it is the very same licensee that then initiate that process of revocation, which is much more closer to what Ms. Sibia is saying when the licensee says there is no purpose, there's no need for this license anymore. Now I'm coming to you, regulator, and I want you to revoke because there is no provisions to surrender. Or if it is not the licensee that is doing that, then the regulator can do it. But if the regulator does it, it must approach the High Court. So it's only the revocation, and it's done under those two grounds, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Massetti, for the additional input. Colleagues, with that said, are we happy to accept the recommendation in 15.1 where we are approving the processing of the revocation by way of a notice of motion to the High Court? By show of hands, colleagues. Mr. Gumede, Ms. Massetti, Ms. Simane, Mr. Fungai, Ms. Mbungose, and Advocate Sitole. So, Mr. Mkize, we have a decision. Please go ahead with the revocation as recommended by the regulator. Can we then move to item 7.2? We've got minutes, two sets of minutes of the 7th of September and the 5th of October. Mr. Mkize?
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thanks for the decision. When proceeding to the minutes of previous meetings, I will take these minutes as read and then not without necessarily highlighting any matter in them. Some of the matters that are for the ER attention have already reached the ER, including the one that we've just discussed now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mkize. I have two hands. May we start with Mrs. Simane, and then I'll come to you, Ms. Sibia. Ms. Simane?
Apologies, Chair, it's a legacy hand.
Okay. Ms. Sibia as well, it was just the hands that were approving.
Me too. Sorry, Chair.
All right. Thank you. Colleagues, we have so we are noting those minutes, Mr. Mkize, about the minutes of 7th of September and 5th of October.
Yes.
Colleagues, we've got to the part of the meeting where we have dealt with the matters that can be dealt with in an open meeting. So I'm going to then close the meeting. May I thank members of the public who had joined the meeting for their time. May I profusely apologize for withdrawing the items that I know that other members would have specifically tuned into the meeting for. It is for the best interest of the regulator, best interest of Eskom, and best interest of the country that withdrawal was done.